Okay. All right. All right. Let's address this. Let's address this. Let's go and talk about this. Biden, I know he's not all there, and the Obama legacy. Who doesn't have that shine? What's going on? Who is running this country? So first of all, um, it is important because apparently there's subpoenas going out. Autopen subpoenas about Hunter and Jill Biden also being included. Biden officials who called for interviews before House Oversight Committee. So look, there's a lot that's happening here, a lot that's going on here. So I want to play this video here and really address this because we got a lot of stuff to talk about, folks. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's go ahead and talk about it, shall we? Shall we? I agree. I agree indeed.
And several key staffers. They may all face subpoenas if they do not comply by tomorrow. So now there's a deadline to this. So there's a ramp up now by Republicans. In a social media post, President Trump wrote, "Whoever had control of the Autopen is looking to be a bigger and bigger scandal by the moment." Aisha Hasni reporting in Washington. Aisha.
Hey, good morning to you, Harris. So that's right. Oversight Committee Chairman Comer tells me that his committee is ready to drop those subpoenas within minutes if former President Biden's doctor and those 4 other staffers do not respond to his request for an interview by tomorrow's deadline. Comer is also telling me that he's willing to expand those summons to include former First Lady Jill Biden, their son, Hunter Biden, and former Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, if that is where the committee's investigation leads them.
Obviously, we're interested in the Jean-Pierre. We're interested in people like Ian Sams. We're also interested in Jill Biden and Hunter Biden. So, but first step is bring these lower level employees in. We believe these employees that most people have never heard of had a huge amount of influence in the use of the Autopen.
So several folks from Biden's Oval Office inner circle have stayed quiet amid the cover-up allegations, but they're still active out there. Ron Klain is now Airbnb's chief legal officer. Anita Dunn now works with the super PAC Future Forward. Mike Donnellan is a Harvard fellow, and Bob Bauer teaches at NYU Law. And we're told that don't rule these people out as well. They could also be interviewed. If the committee does find any wrongdoing in their investigation, Harris, and Chairman Comer says that he would send criminal referrals to AG Pam Bondi. So stay tuned, Harris.
We will. Aisha, thank you. Jason Chaffetz, now Fox News.
So I just want to pull up an article here. So 5 former aides to President Joe Biden are facing the threat of subpoena ahead of a Thursday evening deadline to comply with a Widening Autopen investigation launched by House Republicans. The Autopen is where, okay, well, was Biden actually signing these documents? Now, as we all know, and hang on, let me just. Because I feel like I'm being burnt out here. I feel like I'm being dragged through coal. I feel like I'm dying. I'm dying on the inside a little bit because, you know, after covering politics for so long and being called, you know, all, and here's the thing. Here's the thing. When this whole thing got started, Hardlands Media, you know, I remembered the Coca-Cola classic, like almost like the old, like the golden era of comics where, you know, you had conservatives calling me a communist or a socialist. And I miss those days. It was like, oh, you communists. I'm like, I can't even recite communist theory, okay, because I'm not a communist. But now it's like the criticisms that we got from liberals and a lot of people calling for our censorship mostly came from liberals and Democrats, you know, and it just became funny to me when I had even some of my Trump supporter trolls say like, hey, are you guys okay? Like, how come these communists hate you guys? And it's like, I don't know. We're calling out the fact that Biden's a senile old goat. All right. I mean, come on. The signs were all there. And yes, I feel great. I feel exonerated. I feel so relieved that, oh, now finally people are saying, yeah, Joe Biden, he wasn't all there. But it's like, it's too late. And now it's like, okay, you know, all of this could have been avoided, honey child. All of this could have been done. You're a good guy, Kit. You know what? I'm just a guy. Don't put good or bad. I'm trying. I'm trying, and I'm hitting my head against a brick wall because who was running the country? Now I know how the ancient Romans felt at the twilight era of the Western Empire, and dare I say it, at the Eastern Empire, when there were no more lions among them, and the empire was being ruled by just absolute madmen, senile goats, and weak men. Okay, now I know how the ancient Romans felt, and yes, I know. Here's the thing about empires: all empires have a beginning, middle, and end. It's just, woof, man. You would think humans would learn the lesson, but man, do we keep screwing it up? It's like through cycles over and over again, over and over again. So yeah, who was running the country? I don't know, but the Autopen was writing everything. So for the last 4 years on the Biden-Harris administration, hey, vote blue no matter who. It wasn't Biden signing those documents. It was an Autopen. Yay! All that censorship. All that BS. Are you happy now? Look, I don't know. I don't know how 2028 is going to play out, but for the Democrat Party, look, I get it. You're going to be running your candidates, but to each one of those freaking candidates, be it a governor or U.S. House representative, somebody with name recognition, my question is going to be, how much did you know about Joe Biden's mental decline? By the way, again, Joe Biden has prostate cancer. Sorry about that. Started 3 times. Prostate cancer, which is now metastasized in his bones. So let's say Biden did win the election. Hello? Cancer just doesn't go away because somebody's president of the United States. Who's running this ship? And I'm not angry. I'm just stressed out now. I'm just furious. But it's okay. I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I'm just angry. Continuing on, his delegation of authority has fueled GOP claims that that unelected officials effectively ran the presidency behind the scenes amid new claims of a White House cover-up into Biden's mental acuity. Isn't that lovely? Isn't that pretty? Which again, here I want to pull up this opinion piece. It was written by his opinion. Everyone's entitled to opinion, whatever. By Liz Peek. So Republicans want to investigate former President Joe Biden's use of the Autopen. Did he personally grant broad, if not possibly unconstitutional pardons for family members of the January 6th committee and Anthony Fauci, or did someone else make the decision? Was he responsible for all executive orders issued under his name, or did the White House personnel make those decisions? If he did not personally sign various documents, oh my goodness, are they valid? I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. We'll let you decide. Vote, 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 as if it doesn't matter. The House has announced that the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform will be investigating Biden's use of an Autopen, Autobots transform and roll out, to sign documents such as the pardons issued just before he left office. Representative James Comer, a Republican from the great state of Kentucky, said in a statement he plans to subpoena former Biden aides Annie Tomeshi, Anthony Burnell, Ashley Williams, who he claims ran to interference for Biden and may have overseeing the use of the Autopen. Oh, Optimus Prime would be very happy. Meanwhile, Senator Ron Johnson, Republican from the great state of Muskogee, Wisconsin, is demanding that the upper chamber hold hearings on Biden's health and competence, and rightly so. He wants to interview people who are close to the former president. As he told Axios, we have to, who is running the government? The Justice Department has taken up the issue as well under the leadership of newly appointed Pardon Anthony Ed Martin, whose nomination to become Washington, D.C.'s U.S. attorney failed. Democrats may soon wish that they had not blocked his prior appointment. Because what else can go wrong? A lot.
Contributor, former Utah congressman, who also chaired the House Oversight Committee, which is leading this effort now. This feels like it's right on time. Keep the press on. Your take.
Yeah, Chairman Comer is doing this the right way. You got to bring in the underlying employees. You start getting them on the record under oath, telling us who, how, who authorized this, who was allowed to put in it, who was in the chain of custody of these documents. It is the most powerful thing you have, the signature of the President of the United States.
Yeah.
And I want to highlight something. The pardon for the Biden family is distinctly different. I have looked at all of these, and I am telling you that looks like Joe Biden personally signed the ones for his family, but so many of these others, literally thousands of pardons and other documents, appear to all be on an Autopen. So who authorized that? Comer's going to figure that out.
So that's so interesting because you would know about this device. I've been doing some research. Barack Obama reportedly used an Autopen to sign the Patriot Act extension while he was traveling in France. That was in 2021, or excuse me, 2011. And we know that it's been used by other presidents. But what you're saying is there's a way to tell the difference?
Yeah, you can look at the signatures itself, and you want to go through, and the staffers that were put up on the screen, those really are highlighted. The other thing that's different than, for instance, when I was chairman, is you have a president in Donald Trump who actually wants justice, and the one to actually enforce, if the subpoena, you're
Shout out to Kurt Boss. Yes, I know there should be a lot of outrage, and we should be actually, all of us should be very furious about this. Look, all of you have shared personal stories of either yourself being caretakers, seeing a family member be a caretaker, or seeing friends or colleagues at work be caretakers of people suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's. Okay. And look, I think dementia and Alzheimer's is a very dangerous and serious afflictions. And, you know, it is not easy to see somebody I don't want Biden in this picture. It's not easy to see somebody lose their mind. And the president of the United States, at least what I was taught as a kid, is the highest office of the land. You know, it's the king's throne. It's the emperor's throne. It's where the commander-in-chief sits, who will lead us to a better future. You know, I mean, ideally. And the fact that you had a political party and people, influencers, people in positions of authority, lie and say that, no, Biden's our guy. You know, you had Bernie Sanders lie for him. You had AOC go ahead and go to bat for him. You had all the media go to bat for him. How can you trust the media? How can you trust our politicians? And the thing is, it's not only just the office of presidency, but we've seen examples of this in the United States Senate and House, where you have politicians in their late 80s and 90s. And look, I will not sit here and say somebody can't do anything. You know, I've seen senior citizens, you know, skydive out of an airplane and live as they should, live their best lives. But when it comes down in this day and age where the internet information's coming miles at a second, we need people at the top of their game. Okay. And sadly, because of the way we vote in this country, names, you know, we have allowed ourselves to be submitted to some quasi proxy feudalism in which we've had these politicians in office for decades now, and they're literally falling apart before our very eyes. You know, there have been stories of Democrat and, yes, Republican lawmakers being found in old folks' homes, or either that, just not being there at all. So yeah, I am outraged. And this should affect all of us. Where's the anger? To the people who said that this is the best Joe Biden period ever, not just in the media looking at you, Morning Blow, but to everybody, including you, Bernie, and everyone else in between that told us we got to vote for Biden in 2020. How fucking dare you? How dare you? You know, who knows what kind of danger we actually avoided. I dread to think what kind of big old bullets we had to dodge, or boulders we had to dodge, you know? How we had to sneak on by. Oh, we dodged that. We dodged this. But maybe we didn't dodge anything at all. Maybe we all just got hit and nobody cared. Oh, hell, we did get hit because, you know, I again, throughout the last 4 years, the comments were like, oh man, it's a struggle out there. The economy's hurting me. And I'm trying to be calm. I am. Now, I'm not going to give up, but I got to tell you, if what I see is playing out, going to play out, I'm not going to be so nice to a lot of people. Oh, we got to vote for this Democrat because they're better than this Republican. I've heard this before for the last 8 years. I've heard this before. I don't want to hear it again.
Only as good as your subpoena is your ability to enforce it. The person who would be in charge of actually enforcing that subpoena would be the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, who is Jeanine Pirro. And if anybody thinks that she's going to be bashful in not prosecuting and enforcing these subpoenas, oh my goodness, they haven't met her yet.
No. But we know her well. And what we do know about the situation, too, it's so interesting. Look at the timing of her coming on board now. And this is now really heating up, and Republicans are leaning in. I know I've been wanting.
Again, look at Biden looking confused here. I want to pull up this other video here, too.
Capitol Hill, House Republicans are escalating their pursuit of answers about then-President Biden's health and an alleged cover-up by those close to him. Subpoenas are being prepared, and they could include the former president's family. Here's senior national correspondent Aisha Hasni.
Tonight, Republicans on the House Oversight Committee are readying subpoenas in case former President Biden's White House physician, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, and 4 key staffers don't agree to a request for congressional interviews by the Thursday deadline. The committee is investigating the Biden administration's use of the Autopen to sign pardons and executive orders, some still being challenged in court. Chairman James Comer tells Fox the committee could even call in former First Lady Jill Biden, the president's son Hunter, and former White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre.
If the trail leads us to the next step, which many believe would be perhaps Jill Biden and Hunter Biden, then we will go there.
And while several Biden insiders have stayed quiet.
So they knew. You know, allegedly. Allegedly, in my opinion. Everybody knew. Everybody knew. But the thing is, you know, a legacy lasts forever, folks. Truly, it does. It does. And in turn, you know, I think it's important for us to remember that the legacy in question is going to be none other than everybody's favorite president. You know him, you love him, Barack Obama. Because here's the thing, the Obama legacy has lost its shine. Shout out to Case Study QB. Follow him on all social media. Because I just want to play this out here too. Because remember, the legacy of Obama is not only Obama, but it's how we got Trump and his 2 terms, but also Biden. Because Biden was Trump's VP. Biden was Obama's VP.
Following President Trump's victory last year, some Democrats are beginning to openly criticize former President Barack Obama, strategists and consultants, who, of course, have played a huge role in the direction of the party in recent years. The so-called Obama coalition, made up of less politically engaged voters, younger voters, and voters of color, largely shifted toward Trump in 2024. As NBC News notes, Obama himself remains a force in the party, filling stadiums and commanding the attention of major donors. But even the former president's luster was showing signs of fading last fall. When the 2028 presidential election arrives, it will be 20 years since Obama's first victory. At that point, more voters will have come of age in the era of Donald Trump than in the era of Obama. And Jonathan, it's a great point. Like, first of all, there is this idea. I know there's been some resentment in the Democratic Party that Obama himself kind of only shows up at the end. He's the closer in these elections. But I think his team will push back and say, well, that's why, you know, because he's sort of scarce, that's what makes his appearances so meaningful. So let's set that aside. But it's more about, I think some of the people who work for him have come under a lot of fire lately. But it's also, in this case, it's more about the coalition of voters he built to get put together, which at the time, some Democrats thought, well, this could be the new permanent Democratic Party. That has clearly not been the case. It feels like those voters very quickly got taken for granted.
Well, you know, I look back on the Obama years, and he won in 2008, but then they lost the majorities in the House and then in the Senate. It seems like when the midterms came, the Obama luster wasn't enough to push that coalition out, to bring people to the polls, to give him the majorities he needed, particularly in the second term, to be able to govern. And then when he left the White House, he and the then First Lady, Michelle Obama, were very clear to the American people and to their supporters. We have been here 8 years. We have done everything we can. It is now on you. The number one job is citizen. And I think that's why one of the primary reasons why I think President Obama has been scarce is that everyone's looking for him to save the day.
That's the worst mistake people can get or do. Look for a politician to save the day. You want one of these politicians to save the day? No, you don't. Why would you do that? Why would you want a politician to save the day? You don't want one of these politicians to save the day. You don't want that. You don't want that. You don't want that. What's wrong with you? Why do you want that? That's not what you want. Okay? Everyone as in who? Exactly. Exactly. Shout out to Huey. Again, the Boondocks. Great show. Season 4, I don't know what that was. Season 3 had me scared. Season 1 and 2, pure gold. I think, what's it? My favorite episodes from the Boondocks is actually when Dr. Martin Luther King comes back to life from a coma. And the Barack Obama episode. Great episodes. I think those are two good ones. Oh, yeah, and the now infamous deleted video where they did a show on BET. Great show. I don't know what was season 4 all about. All right, way off topic. But getting back on topic. Don't look for a politician to save you. Don't look for a politician to be the hero. And, you know, the legacy of Obama is Biden's mental failings. Donald Trump winning not once but twice. And no one was going to save us. And I remember 2008. Hell, I was in college. I remember that year. I remember people being excited. Hell, I remember the day when Obama, was won. Chicago was absolutely rocking and rolling. It was a huge amount of energy, and perhaps maybe it was a not fake. The emotions were real, but perhaps people thought things were going to change. Things would be different. But nothing fundamentally changed. But let the big takeaway, the big warning, hit all of you like this. We have a political system that's okay with having the most incompetent people in charge. If that's not evil, I don't know what is.